Valeria, a young and beautiful woman, lives in a seemingly perfect world, a luxurious apartment in Madrid, a successful husband, and a family. She appears to lack nothing. But behind the glamorous exterior lies a quietly developing secret, threatening to destroy everything. The pressure from her husband's family to have a child weighs heavily on her, especially one day when she's heading to the parking lot and overhears the workers' mocking comments, which make her feel uncomfortable. Fortunately, the appearance of Don Rafael, her father-in-law, helps her escape that situation. His care for his son's family seems very special, and this raises questions. Later, she discovers a harsh truth. And it all begins with a strange proposal from her best friend, a doctor, pushing her down a dangerous path. She decides to seek help from her powerful father-in-law, leading her into a whirlwind of temptation, unexpected actions, secret moves, secret meetings, and forbidden relationships. Slowly, she is no longer the woman everyone knew. She is falling into a dangerous game, possibly beyond repair. The whisper of a secret is spreading throughout her house, and it will soon destroy everything. This marks the beginning of our story, a tale full of surprises, sinful passions, and difficult decisions. After the parking lot incident, Valeria can't escape the feeling of unease. The pressure from her husband's family to have a child is becoming heavier, especially with her mother-in-law's indirect comments. She constantly brings up the continuation of the family line and looks at Valeria with eyes full of expectation. One night, while Valeria is sitting alone in the apartment, she receives a call from her mother-in-law, who once again mentions children and says she asked Don Rafael to bring them some tonic for her and her husband. A suffocating sense of helplessness overcomes Valeria. The next morning, Don Rafael visits her, bringing some precious herbs and saying that they will help her and her husband have good news. Before long, his excessive concern makes Valeria feel that something is off. She begins to suspect that perhaps he is feeling pressure from his wife, or that there may be another reason for this. Unable to continue bearing the pressure to have children, Valeria, who works in a major hospital in the city and is a student at La Paz University Hospital, calls her friend Elena. They agree to meet at a nearby cafe, Plaza Mayor, to discuss their concerns. Valeria tells Elena about the pressure she's facing and the doubts she has regarding her relationship with her husband. Elena listens attentively and understands her situation. After Valeria finishes her story, Elena suggests that she and her husband visit the hospital for a health checkup. She says there could be issues that both of them might be facing. They agreed that the checkup will provide them with the correct answers. Valeria agrees, and they schedule the appointment for the following days. Valeria lives in worry, feeling like she is at a crossroads, with decisions that will impact her entire family's future. She doesn't know if she will be able to overcome the challenges ahead. The appointment day arrives, and Valeria and Alejandro go to the hospital where Elena works. Both feel anxious and uneasy, undergoing a series of tests, analyses, and examinations, anxiously waiting for the results. While waiting, Valeria keeps looking at Alejandro, trying to read his thoughts in his eyes. She feels there is an invisible gap between them, and she doesn't know how to bridge it. After a long day, the results are finally ready. Elena calls Valeria into a private room while Alejandro waits outside. Elena looks at Valeria with sympathy and begins to explain the results. After reviewing all the test results, Elena informs Valeria that Alejandro has fertility issues, and it would be very difficult for them to conceive naturally. Valeria listens and feels her heart stop. A sense of shock overtakes her, almost making her fall. She can't believe what she's hearing. All her hopes and desires seem to vanish in an instant. Elena continues, saying there are treatments available, but the success rate is low. One option is to request sperm from a relative of her husband for in vitro fertilization. But she knows that this is not an easy choice. Valeria remains silent, contemplating what Elena just said. She knows that if she wants to have a child, this may be the only way, but asking for sperm from a relative, especially from her father-in-law, seems unimaginable. Elena notices her hesitation and adds, I understand the difficulties you're facing, but if you want to have a child, this is an option you should consider. I will help you in any way I can." Valeria thanks Elena and asks to leave. She needs time to think about everything and make a decision regarding her future. When she returns home, Valeria doesn't tell Alejandro anything about the results. She only says that everything is fine and the doctor will provide advice later. She wants to take her time to think carefully before telling her husband the truth. That night, Valeria lies awake in the waiting room, unable to sleep. Elena's words echo in her head, and she feels like she is at a critical crossroads. She knows that her decision will affect her entire life and the lives of those around her. After several days of reflection, Valeria feels trapped in a maze, unsure of what to do, and feels like she is being pushed to a limit she never thought she would reach. The decision to ask for sperm from her father-in-law, something she had always considered impossible, now seems like the only chance she has to have a child. She knows that opening up to Don Rafael will be incredibly difficult, so she tries to delay it. However, an unexpected event forces her to stop postponing. One afternoon, her mother-in-law calls Valeria to inform her that Don Rafael is angry with her for some reason and has decided to stay at her and her husband's house for a few days. Valeria listens and feels confused and anxious. She knows that it is time to make a decision. That night, Don Rafael arrives. Valeria's apartment looked tired and melancholic, and she wasn't in the mood to talk much after dinner. After a while, Valeria decided to confront Don Rafael and open up about the things she had been keeping to herself. She shared with him Alejandro's test results and Elena's advice, telling him how badly she wanted to have a child and asking for his help. Don Rafael listened quietly, without saying a word. After a moment of reflection, he spoke. "Valeria, I understand your pain. I also wish to see my family grow, and I will try to help you, but I need some time to think about it." Valeria felt a glimmer of hope, but was also anxious, uncertain about whether Don Rafael would truly help her and whether her decision would have any consequences. A few days later, Don Rafael remained at Valeria's house. One night, while they were watching TV together, Don Rafael spoke again. "Valeria, I've thought it through, and I am willing to help. But you should know this is not easy, and I need to feel the right way about it." Valeria, confused, asked what he meant. Don Rafael looked at her seriously and said, "I need you to trust me in this. But it's important that you're ready for the consequences." Valeria felt uneasy but agreed, knowing that she had no other choice if she truly wanted to have a child. She decided to wear something that would make her feel more comfortable, knowing she would need to trust her own strength in the situation. Valeria understood that what she was about to do was very difficult and complex, and there was a part of her that felt it was wrong, but she wanted to focus on her goal of becoming a mother. She entered Don Rafael's room, feeling like she was in a very delicate and vulnerable situation. Don Rafael looked at her with an expression she had never seen before, and after a long silence, he said, "Valeria, I can see that you are a strong and determined woman. I admire that about you." Valeria, feeling both uncertain and determined, knew that this path would not be easy. She carefully navigated the conversation with Don Rafael, trying to help him understand her intentions and needs. Afterward, feeling both relieved and burdened by the intense emotions, Valeria quickly went to Elena's clinic to share what had happened and present the necessary samples for the treatment. Elena, concerned about her friend, knew that Valeria was embarking on a complex and potentially dangerous journey. Elena advised her to be careful moving forward. A few days later, Elena called Valeria to inform her that the sample had been damaged during storage. Valeria felt both desperate and helpless, unsure of what to do next. She turned to Elena for advice and decided to speak with Don Rafael again, hoping he would understand her situation. Elena advised Valeria to be more cautious and suggested meeting Don Rafael in a public place to avoid further complications. Valeria hesitated but agreed, knowing she had no other option. Don Rafael arrived at Valeria's house, Both decided to leave to find some privacy. They drove to a deserted place on the outskirts of Madrid and stopped on a dark road. Inside the car, silence filled the space. Valeria felt her whole body tremble with fear, and something else strange mixed in his heart. He knew he had gone too far, and he had done something completely wrong. Don Rafael looked at Valeria with a different look and said this time he wanted to do it directly. "We will do it together." Valeria listened and felt her whole body turn to stone. She knew Don Rafael wanted to go beyond the limit, and she was facing an important decision. After the final internal struggle, Valeria agreed. She and Don Rafael started to do it inside the car. Tension and chaotic emotions filled the small space. The car shook. Strange sounds echoed in the quiet night. The action happened quickly and ended in shame and embarrassment for both of them. Both felt that they just crossed the moral line and didn't know if they could go back after what happened in the car. Valeria felt like a puppet controlled by fate. She had no control over her life and him. And everything seemed to be going wrong. She was scared, she felt guilty, and a feeling of insecurity was always present in her heart. However, what Valeria didn't know was that her wrongdoings were no longer a secret. The unusual jolts of the car in the dark had attracted someone's attention that night. When Valeria and Don Rafael were doing it in the car, a worker at the apartment building passed by. He was Manuel, a man around 30 years old with a sly look and a malicious, mocking smile. He was fired by Don Rafael after the harassment with Valeria in the parking lot, and still feeling resentful and wanting revenge. When he saw the car shaking, Manuel started to get suspicious. He approached, trying to look inside, but the dark windows of the car previous and him from seeing. However, he recognized the license plate number, a license plate number that he had seen before in the parking lot of the complex. Immediately, a dark idea arose in Manuel's mind. He suspected that there was a shady relationship between the beautiful young woman of the complex and a man. He decided to investigate further into the matter and find a way to use it to get revenge. Don Rafael fired him. In the following days, Manuel started to follow Valeria and Don Rafael's secretly recorded He license plate number. Don Rafael investigated his information and tried to find a connection between the two. Also frequented the apartment complex and tried to meet Valeria. Manuel looked at Valeria with lustful and curious eyes. He noticed the change in her attitude. Fatigue and anxiety were always present. It was clear on her face that she was hiding a secret, and that made him feel more curious and eager to discover it. Meanwhile, Valeria was completely unaware of Manuel's presence. She continued her life in anxiety and guilt, trying to forget what had happened, but could escape the truth. After many days of surveillance, Manuel gathered information about Valeria, and Don Rafael learned that Don Rafael was a successful banker with a wealthy family and Valeria was his daughter-in-law. He also noticed that Don Rafael often visited Valeria's apartment at odd hours. This information made Manuel more and more suspicious. He began to put the pieces together, and his instincts told him that there was a shady relationship between Valeria and Don Rafael. Manuel decided that he could no longer wait. He wanted to know the truth and wanted to use it to get revenge on Don Rafael. He began to plan carefully. He knew that he needed solid evidence before he could act. One night when Valeria was alone in the apartment, Manuel found a way to get in. He didn't want to steal anything, he just wanted to find evidence to prove his suspicions. He ransacked the entire apartment looking for documents, messages, photos, anything that could help him discover Valeria's secret. After a while, he found a strange phone hidden in a secret drawer. Manuel opened the phone and discovered suspicious text messages and pictures between Valeria and Don Rafael. The messages were full of love words, pictures of the two of them together. He felt satisfied and excited. He knew he had found the evidence he was looking for. Manuel took pictures of the messages and pictures and put the phone back in its place. He knew that this was evidence they could use to blackmail Valeria, and he was eager to carry out his plan. Manuel quietly left the apartment without leaving a trace. He felt that he had it up his sleeve, and he didn't have anything that could help him uncover Valeria's secret. After a while, he finds a strange phone hidden in a secret drawer. Manuel opens the phone and discovers suspicious text messages and pictures between Valeria and Don Rafael. The messages are full of loving words, pictures of the two of them together. He feels satisfied. Ed, and excited he knows he has found the evidence he has been looking for, Manuel takes pictures of the messages and pictures and puts the phone back in its place. He knows that this is evidence they see and used to blackmail Valeria, and he is eager to carry out his plan. Manuel quietly leaves the apartment without leaving a trace. He feels that he has it up his sleeve, and he doesn't anything that could help him uncover Valeria's secret. After a while, he finds a strange phone hidden in a secret drawer. Manuel opens the phone and discovers suspicious text messages and pictures between Valeria and Don Rafi. All the messages are full of loving words, pictures of the two of them together. He feels satisfied and excited. He knows he has found the evidence he has been looking for. Manuel takes pictures of the mess ages and pictures and puts the phone back in its place. He knows that this is evidence they can use to blackmail Valeria, and he is eager to carry out his plan. Manuel quietly leaves the apartment without leaving a trace. He feels that he has it up his sleeve, and he doesn't. He was about to lose this chance. He was preparing a web of suspicion to surround Valeria and drag her into a more dangerous situation than ever. After obtaining evidence, Manuel felt like a wolf stalking his prey. He knew that Valeria was now in his hands, and he could do whatever he wanted. He started planning to confront her and make his demands. One afternoon, when Valeria returned home after a long day of work, Manuel suddenly appeared in front of her. He stood in front of the door from his apartment, a threatening look and a cruel smile on his face. Valeria was startled, feeling fear invade her. She recognized this man. He was one of the workers she had seen in the parking lot. She felt something was wrong and tried to back away. Manuel, he said in a sarcastic tone, "Hello, Miss Valeria, it seems like you have some secrets, right?" Valeria was silent, trying to hide her anxiety. She knew that he knew something, and he was in a very gay rouse situation. Manuel continued, "I know everything, right, trying to hide it, but I know what you and your father-in-law did in that car." Valeria heard and felt stunned and scared. She couldn't believe that her secret had been discovered. She didn't know how to deal with this situation. Manuel approached Valeria. His expression became more frightening. He said, "I have evidence in my hand. If you don't want these secrets to be exposed, then you have to do as I say." Valeria trembled and asked her what she wanted. Manuel smiled wickedly. "What do you want?" "I want you to know very clearly, I want money. I want everything." Valeria realized that she had been trapped. She knew that Manuel didn't just want money, but also had other motives. She felt threatened and did not know how to get out of this situation. After Manuel's threat, Valeria felt like she was falling into a trap. The abyss, the echo of uncertain silence enveloped her, and she did not know what to do to get out of this situation. She knew that Manuel was not only after money, but also had other dark motives as a hunted prey, and there was no one to thought about her husband, but she did not want him to know the truth. She thought about her father-in-law, but she knew that he could not help her either. Valeria decided to try to settle things alone with Manuel. She did not want to hurt anyone, and she did not want her secret to be revealed. She tried to keep calm and told Manuel that he needed time to think about his demands. Manuel smiled wickedly and said, "I will give you time, but do not expect to be able to escape. I'm watching you, and I'll take action if you do something stupid." Manuel left, leaving Valeria alone with fear and despair, knowing that she was playing a very dangerous game and she could lose everything. If she wasn't careful. In the following days, Valeria lived in anxiety and restlessness. She didn't dare to go anywhere alone. She always felt a gaze watching her. She tried to think of a way out of this situation, but couldn't find a solution. Started thinking about the past, about the mistakes he had made. He regretted deciding to go down this path and wished he could go back to fix everything, but now it seemed too late.